Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
Greetings, visionaries. Welcome to Velen's Chosen. This is episode 155. If you're a competitive player, an arena specialist, deck building visionary, or just want to have a bit more fun, we can help you buff your game and achieve some of your Hearthstone goals. This week, we are talking about balancing life and Hearthstone yet again. This is something that we've covered in the past, but with a very different flavor, and I think we had less community involvement, I would say. This time, we're going to go more community-focused. So we've got a lot of feedback from our community, in our Discord in particular, that is always chatting about this pretty much on the regular, and we asked them, thankfully, Grant has been planning this for a little while and getting a little bit of the chat going so that we can get some opinions in more of a condensed format and then talk about it in a discussion format amongst ourselves. My name's Rob. I'm patched in from southern Japan, and I'm joined by none other than the Grant Meister, Watchman HS. What's up, Grant?
¿Qué pasó, amigos? Which means what's happening. Yeah, guys. It's good to be back with y'all. Last week I was laughing because I had said at the beginning of the show that power was a potential thing, and like no sooner did we cut the show off on the live stream, my power went out. My internet was toast.
Fast.
So it was gone. That was all she wrote. But glad to be back. Glad to be talking some mental health. And I'm cool. I'm glad I get to pretty much quote people in our Discord. If you have any doubts about joining our Discord, if you play Hearthstone, this show will hopefully leave no doubt in your mind as to the fact that you need to hurry on over and get involved, because we got some really smart people in our Discord that have a lot of good things to say.
Also joining us from Canada is our resident lore expert, Eve Martin. What's up, Eve?
I was laughing in the intro because you said balancing Hearthstone and life, and I was like, yeah, part of my balancing this week has been not playing it at all.
We're going to actually mention that probably somewhere, and it might as well be at the top of the show, right? So let's talk about that.
Might as well.
If we're going to channel my inner Rhett and Link fanship. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's kind of been on Twitter a lot. I've been following this conversation about people, like, they seem to really want to like the meta, because we were all a bit excited about it when it first came out. There was like mechs. We all love mechs and these new mechanics, and everything looked really good. And then when it shook out, they were almost asking themselves, why don't I like this? Why am I not having fun? Like, I want to enjoy this and I want to play and be engaged, but I'm just not. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm not, so I'm not going to play. I'm not going to keep banging my head against this wall and trying to like force myself to have fun and force myself to like it, which as content creators, we get in this cycle where we're like, well, we have to make content for it. This is what our show's about. So I need to play. I need to know the things and, be a part of the conversation. But I was not happy. I wasn't having fun. And so I opted out. And Destiny just dropped a new expansion last week. So I've been playing the heck out of that and having a ton of fun. And now I get to come and talk to you guys and hopefully have something to say about balancing Hearthstone and life.
Well, it's fair. Like if you have like a handful of games that are like your jam and they come out with new content, I don't think anybody's going to argue with you over how okay it is to go and like binge on that. You know what I mean? I can't think of many games that like, I don't play a lot of video games, at least not as much as I used to. But like when new content comes out for any of them, it's like, oh, I'm there. Boom. That's all I do,
So this is something that I've kind of wanted to mention at the top, is that more and more there are less people out there with budgets that can support a multifaceted casual gaming experience across the board of all genres, right? There's not very many people doing this anymore, and most of the games are asking more and more of their players, and the players are asking more and more of their game developers because they don't want a game. They want an experience, and they want a lifestyle game, which is kind of weirdly going back into what happened with Destiny's failures and successes over the last however many years of its lifespan.
The term they use is hobby. They want to make Destiny a hobby. And I think World of Warcraft falls in that too, where it's a
Yeah.
game that takes a lot
with
of time
Diablo.
and energy, and it's like you check in every day. You know, you put time and effort into it every day. They want to make it a hobby. And you can't have 15 different hobbies. So your games are going to fight with each other for your attention.
Well, I think there's so many possibilities out there. I mean, shoot, as a teacher, I would tell you that easily half my students were like, "Yeah, I want to go into video game design." Well, because there's money for it, because there's this industry that is gaming is not something. When we were kids, we would play games, and we would play it as a game, and we'd go and we'd beat it, and we'd either shelve it or we'd play it with our friends, or that was pretty much the extent of our experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it
then
ended.
it had a definite starting and ending point. And like maybe if you hadn't played it in a couple of years, like, oh yeah, I think I'll just get out Zelda again and play it, or something like that. But now it's like games have this lifespan that's indefinite. It has like Blizzard is like the master of this, where they have a game that easy to understand, difficult to master, and there's definite tiers of play. Hearthstone is one of them. I experience this hardcore when I play Overwatch. I watch pros play Overwatch and I go, oh yeah, I never see players that good because I'm not even close to that tier. But if I wanted to be there, I look at like the how much time I would have to invest and how much energy I'd have to invest in research and practice and equipment and all this stuff. And it's like, man, this is like approaching sports in like how people invest time and energy and
Exactly.
money
That's
into
the
it.
best comparison, I think.
Yeah,
it really is.
It has to do with, I think, two main features of games, because what happens with a lot of the games is you either have a game that is geared towards a player versus player environment that kind of oozes competition, and as a byproduct of that, kind of makes a game a hobby, in that the hobby is competing, the hobby is improving and learning. Similar to your Hearthstones, your Overwatches, your Heroes of the Storm, your League of Legends. So this would be card games as a whole. People are trying to learn things and gain an edge, right? And play better. They have some sort of ranking system that kind of keeps you hooked. It's less about what the game feels like and more of, if you can succeed, it will look like this number or this rank or this system will put you there, whether it's a team or not. They have something that you're always chasing. And then for the casual crowd, they say, well, if you're not chasing this, then you can chase a cosmetic, whether that be through your dollar amounts, through your time, or through both, which is most common. And then you have the flip side, which is what a lot of companies have really struggled with, which is what's called replayability of a game if it doesn't have a PvP structure. And I'm no game developer. I'm just simply putting a few things into, and I'm not even saying this is an exhaustive list. I'm just saying in kind of generic broad brush strokes, we can say that this is kind of the general approach, because you don't go play Zelda competitively against your friends, right? You don't go play you don't go play Mario, Banjo-Kazooie, Luigi's Mansion, Raven Rabbits, or even XCOM. Relatively, like, those things have systems, and there are games that are RPG focused that do have a competitive structure, i.e. Pokemon, but they're not really heavily supported, even though they really want to be. And even if they are and they're supported like Pokemon is, there's still a lot of realms where top level of play and consistency isn't really seen. Competitors change a lot, and there is a lot of turnover within it, because it has to do with both prediction and lots of chance. And people
I don't
complain
think
a lot
every game
about
has to be,
Hearthstone
right?
doing that, right?
You don't want every game to be, right?
Yeah,
Right.
You do not want every game to be like that. You want your Legends of Zeldas where you have your beginning, your middle, and your end, and you're like, I played that was good, and then you put it away. Because if we have too many WoWs, I think we'd all be exhausted, and games wouldn't even mean the same thing anymore. So it's nice to kind of have like maybe year one that you put a lot of time and effort and focus into, and then the other ones you like pick up and play and put down, and
then you got the fighting games,
that sort of thing.
Crazier community, like Smashes and Tekkens and Mortal Kombats and Dragon Ball Fighters and like all of that. But like to piggyback on what Eve was saying there, like, it's really interesting how the non-hobbyist games are going at it because replayability looks so different for so many different games. For example,
I think
I'm gonna use-
DLCs, I think, is probably
DLC
the
is a good
biggest
one,
thing
right?
they use.
Sometimes they
Yeah.
use it for pay, sometimes they use it for hours, like depending on what the DLC unlocks are. Some people gate it by Warcraft does it through an achievement system, through reputation. So they have lots of different things that they're utilizing for replayability or hobbyist mentality within their game structure. But hobbyist mentality is something I kind of want to stray away from because that's not, I think, what Hearthstone's going for. They're going more for the player versus player, and the randomness thing is kind of their replayability, right? They're trying to put you
I don't
in
think so, honestly,
more
because
scenarios.
they don't
where-
expect that from their casual player base, right? Like they're not hyping for their casual player base get to legend. They're hyping these are cool, interesting cards, have fun, and also their adventures and things like
They're all about giving you a separate experience every time you sit down, even with the same set of cards. That's what their idea is. They give you the same
Tavern
scenario
Brawl. That's
over
the
and
other
over and
thing.
over and over
Yeah.
again, and it changes every time. And you have lots of layers of consistency, which is why you have professionals, because they master that one fringe scenario. They've encountered that about 6 to 10 different times, and they're way more prepared for it because they've actually seen every scenario across the board much more often than the typical player because of the sheer amount and skill that they have to recognize when the scenario comes up, what's the proper code to do it, right?
Yeah.
I think they want it all. I mean, Grant, you would probably consider Hearthstone your biggest hobby.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it's so big to the point of where like I took advantage of the Eternal. Eternal had like a hey, if you log in and do this, you get like 30 or 40 packs of cards for free. I'm like, okay, sweet. And like Navalis and a couple other bros online were just saying, hey, check this out. This looks good. And so I looked into it and I started playing the game, and I felt exhausted by it. I'm sitting there reading through it and thinking about it and kind of relearning, because it's kind of like a combination between Hearthstone and Magic in terms of its play style. And I was relearning it, and my mind was going, man, I don't have time for this. You know what I mean? Like, I have enough time to play this game, like of these types of games that I choose to enjoy. Like, I could never get into more than one card game at this point in time. I just don't have time for it. I don't have the energy for it. Like, there's been
mental
times,
brain power.
the mental brain power. Like, even now, like, I haven't played a tremendous amount of Hearthstone this month, but I'm at rank 1 right now. I hit rank 1 today, and like I have to psych myself up, not because I dislike it, but because I'm figuring out where I need to be as a player to play well. And if I say, all right, I'm going to grind for 3 hours, that is not when I do well when I play Hearthstone. And so I'm going to play a handful of games and I'm going to go away. To play a handful of games, I'm gonna go away. And like in the meantime, I might kind of play Eternal, but I'm looking at it from like 100% casual. Like, I was opening packs and they give you this huge array of cards that you open. It's like 10 cards. And I'm like, I'm gonna read 2 of these, and I just went to the next one. I didn't even read them all, which I would never do in Hearthstone, man. I would study it and I would think about it. It's just different. It occupies too much. Let's put it this way: my hobbies occupy a lot of mental real estate. That's how I think about it. And I only have so much mental real estate for all the various things that I juggle in my life, and I can't keep introducing new areas because I don't have high-rise apartments. I build a house on that stuff, and that's it, and that's all I got. Now, some people probably can do more. Maybe they're more efficient than me, but I can't do that. Like, my wife's been saying, "Hey, we have a Wii still. I don't have a Nintendo Switch or anything," and she's kind of been alluding to maybe we should get a Switch because my kids like gaming, and she thinks Nintendo is safe and all that stuff, and because. And I keep like, I want a PC. I want a PC game better. And she's like, no, they can't play those games. And so I want to Switch. But it's like, I was like, I want to play the Mario games and I want to play the Zelda games. But I don't know if I have time for those games. Like, I would want to play Breath of the Wild, like top to bottom, get every single thing in the game, and then be done with it.
But
I
those
don't have
kind of
time for
games
it.
don't have the competitive nature. You can take
Yeah.
them at your own pace. There is no, I need to get this done before next week, before a turnover, before next season. So those games are a bit more forgiving. We did get a Switch and we have those games, and I took like 3 or 4 months to play Breath of the Wild because it was just like, oh, I got some time. I can sit down and put some time into it,
Well, I think you're right. I mean, there's definitely like an escapist kind of element to some of those games where you can just like, I'm just going to step out of reality for a little bit, take a little
Yes.
vacation into Hyrule, and then I'm going to come back,
If I could
And I
jump
like
in
playing
on
things with my
that-
kids.
If
So
I could jump in
that's-
on that too, because the thing about Hearthstone that you're not getting with any other Blizzard game, at least until Diablo pops over to the Switch, which was recently announced, is you can pick it up and take it with you.
Mm-hmm.
So Hearthstone is like that. Warcraft is not like that. Warcraft is asking you to sit down and play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heroes is asking you to go sit down at your computer and commit. Overwatch is saying, look, you need to have a lot of space and a lot of time, but that's only if you want to get good. Like Warcraft and Heroes of the Storm are asking of like blocks of time. Overwatch does ask the same thing, but abbreviates it and says it's shorter. But if you want to get good, you have to invest the same time frame. It's just you're going to be playing more, you're getting more reps in, if that makes sense. Then you go over to Hearthstone. Hearthstone asks a lot of reps of you. Games are typically all over the place as far as time's concerned. But you can sit down and hop on a bus, and as long as your service doesn't die, you can play. And it's the same of Hyrule, or it's the same of Diablo when that comes around, because then you can just hop on your, you can hop on your Switch and play. So the mobility of gaming is something that has become one of the defining features for Hearthstone, especially within the global market. And the reason I say this is because I was just talking with my wife about this week. I was just like, Carrie, I was talking, I think it was Hat actually brought this up with a really big debacle in one of the APAC qualifier tournaments or something, where they had an issue with an admin and them not saying something, and then they DQ'd a game, and so they had to regame as the final ruling instead of a hard DQ. It was like really, really weird situation.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was not great.
And so when I was talking to them, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure culture is kind of one of the things where they're running through the gamut of culture and saving face, and then it's a competition and they want to win, so they have all these conflicting emotions, and then you have personal anxiety that's kind of going into that, and nerves. So I was like, this is just a cluster when it comes to anything. Like, this is personal, this is cultural, this is individual. Like, there's all kinds of things at play in the situation, and we can sit back and kind of say what should have been done, but at the end of the day, this is like a high-octane situation where you don't have a whole lot of time to react or do anything, and if you don't make the right decision immediately, you get judged at every point thereafter. So where am I going with this is more of a lot of these players don't really get the top-level competition when they're trying to qualify, because most of these players are, at least in the Japanese scene, most of the people that I see playing all these top things are, I'm playing on my phone, I'm on the train, and I'm on my way to school, I'm on my way home from school. And even when they are home, these students don't really have a PC. And I was talking with some of my teachers this week, and most of a lot of my, I guess maybe I shouldn't say it this way, but I'll say it in more of a broad brushstroke instead of an anecdote, because that's what they said. The majority of students in Japan don't actually even learn how to use a computer until they hit to university. And university and high school are both non-compulsory.
What?
That's crazy.
And the crazy thing is they have a ton of understanding of how social media and computer gaming and regular gaming works from the palm of their hand, but they don't really know the ins and outs of like getting that translated to when they have sit down in front of a PC. And the reasoning, I think, again, this is projecting, and maybe we're going a little long on this, but me talking about it is going to thinking about how expensive things are here in Japan with the declining birth rates, and a lot of potentially the reasonings is they have to spend tons of money on shoes, clothes, books just for junior high, elementary, and high school, and they have to change all the uniforms. And then if any of their kids want to go to a different high school than they went with a sibling, they can't just, jump over in the what's it called? They can't just jump gosh dang it. They can't just jump on the bandwagon of using hand-me-downs. That's the word I'm looking for, hand-me-downs.
Right.
If that makes sense. Especially if you have two kids that happen to have different body types, it's like that just doesn't work anymore.
Sure.
And that's a very real issue.
Yeah, expense in time.
Yeah, I think to get back to Hearthstone, that they're trying to kind of cover all of the different levels of the people that they want to be engaged in with and all the different ways that they want to engage people, covering like your casual, covering your pro, covering your hobbyist. And then when anything else tries to take a part of that space, like the one you tried, Grant, whose name I've already forgotten,
Eternal.
they have to actually compete with Hearthstone. It's
Mhm.
not like you can just have like multiple games and multiple following bases. It's like if you already have a lot of base with Hearthstone, they have to decide to quit Hearthstone to join something else because like you said, you don't have the mental real estate for it. So unless they come into the space and they're better in some way or they're giving the people something that they don't get from Hearthstone, they're not going to make it. And it's the same thing with World of Warcraft, right? They took over the MMORPG space and nothing ever unseated it because nobody has the time to do more than one. So they had to
Mhm.
pick.
Mhm.
Knights of the Old Republic, I mean, did pretty well for a while and different things like that. But we all have a limited amount of time, even though we love games. And so when we're trying to make time for Hearthstone and make time for this brand new, oh my gosh, Spider-Man just came out and everyone's saying it's so amazing. And I'm looking at that going, I want to try all the games and play all the games. And I have my husband and I have my kids and I have all my responsibilities and I have the podcast that I do and the games. And it's just like, what do I do? As a gamer, as somebody who's passionate about games and loves just playing all the games. If they're good, I want to play them. So what do you
Mhm.
do? How do you balance that?
Let's get into the community,
Well,
I think. Yeah?
yeah. Let's kick it to the community. I like it. I
Grant,
like it. I like it.
take us
All
away.
right. So, I like to plan sometimes for show content like weeks, sometimes months in advance, because sometimes like it's easy. Sometimes the community and Blizzard's just like giving us news and cards and stuff. We don't have to think about it. We can just make a show, right?
Yeah.
Thank you,
But
Blizzard.
thank you, Blizzard, and those are easy weeks for us. But sometimes we just want to, the stuff you actually care about is like the stuff where we try to humanize our gaming hobbies, addictions, whatever you prefer to call it. So I thought rather than just us pontificating about you know how to balance your life around gaming and all this stuff, because certainly we have our
TED
own
Talk.
opinions. Tech talk. Yeah, right. I wanted to know what the community thought, and there was some really, really good feedback. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna say who in our community via their Discord handle, what they said, and we'll just all comment as we see fit. And I'm just gonna kind of read it as they put it out there. I'm not gonna. None of them are really long enough, except for Samurai Flea and Ridiculous Hats. They did like itemized point by point things that
They
I
have
thought were
their own
worth putting in.
podcasts, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
this makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise that those guys were verbose. We love them both. Um, but we can spend a little more time on theirs, and we'll just talk about each individual point. But other people in the community had some real short, really nice ideas. Sometimes it's how to balance their life, like when you've been playing Hearthstone. A lot of the people on Discord are people that play Hearthstone fairly seriously. When they sit down, they're the kind of people that care about winning. They're not necessarily just like, I just threw some stuff together and played and see what happens. There's even some people that there's some comments in here about some people who would say, yeah, I use Hearthstone as an escape from my daily life, and this is how I do it. So I hope what
I
they have to
can't
say.
wait to see how you're going to pronounce this first person's name.
Oh, why do you know something I don't?
No, I just don't know how to pronounce it myself. So I'm
Mhm.
like, how is Grant going to deal with
Well,
this?
I've been practicing. So okay, so first up in the shoot is Kazoot Kazoot. Okay.
Kazoot a root.
And in response to the question is, how do you balance life in Hearthstone? They said, setting a time frame or a cutoff time to stop playing and engage with family and friends has helped me. Comments.
Does it stick?
Does it stick? Right.
I have tried to do the same thing myself. Back in my WoW days, it was like I won't play until after the kids are in bed. The kids go to bed at 7:30, and I would be watching that clock going, all right, everyone get into bed right now.
Mama's got to play.
And it didn't stick. So this works as long as you are religious with it and you are strict with yourself and keep to your time frame that you set for yourself. But we're all human.
Get yourself a timer
we
and then finish the last game when the timer goes off.
this works. I've seen people do this in the music world. Like, I remember when I was in music graduate school, there was a guy named Evan, and the guy was interestingly enough, he was diabetic. And if you know anything about people who are diabetic, is very often they're very disciplined people because they have to be, right? They have to really monitor what they eat. They have to think about time frames, how long has it been since they had insulin, all this stuff. And so he took a lot of those approaches that he did when he was diabetic, and he applied them to his daily life. And that kid would come in and he would practice X amount of hours, and his entire practice regimen was itemized out. The kid never missed notes ever that I heard ever. He won a professional orchestra job at 21 because he was just super regimented. And so there's something to be said. You know, the rest of us are just like throwing hours and hours and hours at the practice room, and none of us had the success that he had, and he had it like right away. So there's something to be said about like, all right, I'm going to do something X amount of time, and when that time is up, that's it. Done, you know, because you can actually get, in some cases, more done depending on how you approach it, you know.
I would like to kind of weigh in a little bit more on unpacking that just for a second from my grad school experience. It's really weird. I'm not sure how you can translate this to Hearthstone, but for what it's worth, when I was in grad school, there were times where my school was a lot different than a lot of other people's because my degree was only 2 years, and it was cross-culturals degree in a really small school that actually closed when I finished. And I was working full-time as a I guess you could say like assistant to our marketing department. But the marketing department leader was also another guy in grad school like me because they had to fire a bunch of people based off of some really big issues that happened and ended up being one of the main issues why the school had to close, ironically enough. And so because of this, I was doing that. I was doing yearbook. I was in charge of everything to do with photography and yearbook setup from start to finish. And that was my year-long job. And I had to work 28 to 36, sometimes 40 hours a week, depending on how many events we had during a given week. And then I had school. And I was also trying to get married around this time, just to give you an idea. And I had gotten engaged right before I went to grad school. So that was pretty nutty. Or right around midway through there. So anyways, grad school was something that they would ask me a lot of things to do because you would have block classes where I would basically be missing work hours on purpose so that I could go to a block class, or I would have a block class that was online. So it was basically a module where after I went home from work, I'd have to go do something, and I would listen to some of the lectures and take some notes on some of my light days during work hours because, you know, when you're a photographer, you have a lot of lulls when there's nothing going on and your editing photos are finished, or you're not really having any content for you to kind of bump up your yearbook updates because nothing's happened yet. So with regards to this, when I had a bunch of things, I looked at all of my assignments before when I got my syllabuses. So when you look at your assignments, you get how much you have to do for your reading. And reading in grad school, if you guys are unengaged or have not gone to grad school or not gone to even university, is a lot. Like, let's say 2,500 to 5,000 pages for an entire course. And that's not counting the amount of pages that you need to read included in your paper research that you have to write a couple more papers, depending on how many papers the class asks you, how many pages the papers need to be, et cetera, et cetera. So what I ended up doing is I was like, okay, this is an insane amount of reading. Do you actually need to complete this? Because if you want to have 100% in something, that means a perfect score. Do you need to be perfect in a grad school course? No, you're looking for a diploma. Okay? Are you looking for good grades? Yeah, probably. You want to make it look good. So how can you maintain this by maintaining a good grade? Well, you look at what the weighting is of your grades. So I looked at how much is the reading? What does this percentage look like in a page number count? So I said, okay, this many pages represents 70% of this grade. So if I read this many pages, that's 70%. I can skip 2,000 pages of reading and just say, no, I'm not going to do that. Because I don't need that much of a grade. And especially if your grade system or your professor is saying, this 5,000 pages worth of total content reading is 100%, and any less than that is basically a percentage point. And when it boils down to about 50 to 100 pages being about a 1% of your grade, you're like, my time is worth way more than 100 pages in a percentile.
Sure.
And then on top of that, all of the lower grades, when you're having something that, let's say that entire reading grade is only weighted for 10% of your total grade. You can take like a 50% in that, because every percentage point at the lower level all the way up until you get to a certain area, there's what's called diminishing returns. So when you're spending your time in Hearthstone, I guess you can kind of transliterate this over to saying your time is valuable. Even if this is a hobby that you're willing to invest in, there's going to be diminishing returns with your time. Grant said this multiple times, especially just now. I'm not going to play for 3 hours. I'm going to play a couple games and then peace out. My brain can't be engaged that highly or that tightly on my gameplay because there's diminishing returns. And I can get to this level by playing less if I play smart. So that's something that you can do with your time and your gameplay. So anyways, just a little monologue from grad school. There you go.
I like it.
Sorry.
I like it. Should we move to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here's an interesting take on one. This is from Kazargar, one of our regulars in our Discord. He starts it out. He says, "Dust your goldens." He says, "That may seem obvious to some, but I never really realized how much dust I had tied up in them. Freeing that up really helped me to manage the amount of money I felt I needed to put in the game, and not feeling bad about the money you're spending on the game really helps you enjoy it more." So sounds like kind of interpretation is, if you use your resources wisely in the game and like look at what you have available, you don't feel like you have to keep shelling out bucks to get the stuff you need to play the game fully.
You know what this makes me think of is
What?
in World of Warcraft, they went into this token mode
Yeah.
where instead of spending money to pay to play World of Warcraft, you could grind gold and buy the token with in-game gold and then not have to spend real money on it. Because for some weird reason, there's a lot of people who have a lot of time but a little bit of money. And there are people that have more money but less time. You have your young people who don't have a job yet, who are living at home with their parents, who have very small amount of money, but they have tons of time and they can play so much Hearthstone. So for them, the balancing of the Hearthstone is money. How can I get a complete collection? How can I be professional? How can I, be competitive? Because I don't have a lot of money, but I have a ton of time. And then for the adults who have families and children and jobs and all these things, we're like, well, I have some money. I can buy a bunch of packs. It's not too bad. But when it comes to time, that's where I'm struggling to balance it. So the balance of Hearthstone isn't just time and mental energy. It's also money for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So this is a way for the people who have time but don't have money. Just think about those cards that you're holding on to and what they could represent. Like for me, I had a huge collection in Wild because I've been playing for a long time, like practically since the beginning of Hearthstone. And so when I had a deck that I really wanted to play, I went back through my Wild collection and went, oh, I have all these really great legendaries that are so cool, but I literally never play with them. And they're sitting there gathering dust, and they could transform into fun for me if I have the heart to dust them. It's so hard. But I haven't regretted it. I haven't looked back and been like, oh, I wish I had, what was it, Baron Rivendare, I think I dusted.
I dusted Baron Rivendare too at once upon a time. Sometimes I regret it, but almost never,
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's what I think Kazargar is saying is, yeah, they're pretty and they're shiny, but if they can translate into a new deck for you to play,
It's true.
maybe you should do that.
Yeah. Don't be a hoarder. Have you ever met a hoarder that's happy?
No.
Anyways, let's see. Rob, you want to comment or do we want to move on?
No, let's go on. That's great.
Okay, good job. All right. Trey. Trey is another one of our regulars. He says, typically wait to game until the wife has gone to sleep. That way I don't take away time from her and my daughter. At first, she didn't understand why I was staying up late, but once I explained to her why, she understood and actually kind of appreciated it. I lose a little sleep because of it, but oh well.
You only need 6 hours.
Sleep is for the weak. It's my college
So-
montage.
I like this one because it kind of shows an understanding of his family dynamic, and
Yeah.
I kind of especially appreciate that he said it sounded like he made that choice before it became a problem. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that's at least reading between
Good
the lines.
on
Maybe
him.
I could be wrong, But there's
I think
something
you're
about
right.
saying, when you want to sometimes have a hobby or something that you take seriously, sometimes you have to just wait until the kids are in bed. Sometimes you have to wait until all the important things or the things that really matter. Not that Hearthstone doesn't matter, but like,
In the scheme of
people
things,
related
yeah.
people related things are done and finalized before you get out the phone. And I can tell you, I have lost a lot of Hearthstone like while sitting in the bathroom while my kids took a bath because I was bifurcating my attention, or
Yes.
like trying to finish up a game when my wife starts talking to me about something, and either I finish the game and win and ignore her, which never goes well, or I I try to look at her and try to pay attention to, and meanwhile, and then I may misplay like 6 times and lose the game anyways. So why bother playing, right? So it's good to know, like, in your home situation, when you're playing, like, is now a good time to play? Is it really a good idea to try and cram a game in when there are people awake who are going to demand your attention, whether it be a child or a spouse or a friend or whatever?
Yeah, the worst feeling is when I find myself being angry and frustrated with my kids because
Ooh.
I'm in the middle of a game and they're like, "Mom," and I'm like, "Not now. I'm in the middle of something." And just feeling like, okay, the reason I am treating them angrily right now is a game that I'm
Yeah,
playing.
I'm
Like
guilty
they
of that.
don't deserve that, right? Like
Mm,
if it was something they were doing that was wrong, then I could see parenting, right? That's what it is. But if I'm playing a video game and I'm being mean to them and reacting angrily towards them because I want to be paying attention to this thing instead of them, it's not a great call. Doesn't feel good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to know yourself too. I mean, Eve, I'm totally in your camp. I've so done that so many times where, like, Saturday, I haven't really played much Hearthstone during the week, and yeah, man, I'm gonna play for an hour now, and dad, I need something, and you're like, get away. I actually will sometimes get away from me. I'm playing. I've said that before,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
I'm in the middle of
and
something
and
right
and and
now.
and, and then you realize that, like, dang, I just totally blew my kid off, or I blew my wife off, or something because I had to, like,
Yeah.
count lethal or something silly like that, and you're like, oh.
I'll
It's
be
So
done in just 2 minutes. You can come back and ask me
and
2 minutes.
And if you do that and you lose, you feel like a terrible person because it feels like you put somebody off and you couldn't even get the win for it. So now you've doubled down on the badness,
Yeah.
and you've alienated yourself from a person you love and care about, and you lost the game, and you
Oh, it's
feel like,
worse.
and it
Here's
feels
My
like you're
kids are
just like,
like, "Did I
now
do that, Mom?
the
Did I
weird
make you lose the game?" That's what they say to me.
the
And I'm
weird
like,
thing
"No."
that I would say, like, I understand it from that point of view, but like the twisted thing is you kind of sometimes feel good when you win anyways. Like your
oh yeah,
emotions are like, I feel good, and then you're like, wait a second, is this who is this? Is this me? And you're
no,
like, did I just make my child, or did I just make my wife a stepping stone for my personal enrichment? That's some
I've done that.
twisted crap. Right?
Oh yeah,
Like that's just what
I've,
people
I've
do, and you get caught doing this all the time. And for
it's
me,
only human, man.
I don't
It
have the
really
experience
is.
of doing this with children, okay? But because I don't have any. But I do have the experience that you guys are talking about with, like, my spouse. And then on top of that, more recently, especially over the course of this last year, Carrie and I have realized that some of the habits that we've kind of built up over the last year have been, I can only speak to myself personally because her habits are different, but my personal health has been not just in jeopardy, but like has just deteriorated a little. And
Mm.
so, like, I'm not going running. I'm not going out to spend time with my volleyball girls at like once or twice a week to go play with them and help practice with the coaches. I'm not maintaining good enough relationships. It's literally just like, because I spend time here, that's because I'm not spending time here or there.
Mhm.
And it is something that prioritizing time and prioritizing people are different, and yet they overlap because it's not something
Yeah.
you can simply solve with a schedule.
They're
It's
two
something you
sides
kind
of
of
the
have to
same
do.
coin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something you have
yeah.
to do and maintain, and it's a priority structure and a mental game that you really need to stay engaged with, or you'll catch yourself off guard like this. But
Yeah.
This
So
is something I think that a lot of gamers understand because when World of Warcraft came out, when Destiny dropped and the new Forsaken came out, there were people all over Twitter going, take care of yourself, remain hydrated, make sure you get up and walk around a bit and stretch your legs.
It's
and
like
make sure you have
basic
snacks,
understanding functions.
right?
Please use the restroom. Please
Yeah.
stand up one time.
And there's a reason that they do
Please
that.
drink
It's because when
water.
something comes out like this, we know, all of us, the gamer mentality is just to dive in and not come up for air for like hours.
It's a
And I have a really
full
understanding
hedonistic
family who's like,
consumption. You know what I mean?
yeah, I have an understanding family who's like, this is mom's thing and it makes her happy and we're going to let her do it. And then we're going to kind of go, okay, you've been playing for 5 hours now, just so you know, you probably didn't notice the passage of time, but we're just going to kind of like intrude into your world for a bit and say, hey, have you eaten anything?
Eve, have you ever thought about like how we consume games to kind of how animals consume their food sometimes? So like if you have
I've
if you
never
have a
thought of that
Labrador,
before.
if you have a Labrador that's gotten to a very old age, you would understand this. Or a dog that really loves their food. Because my lab loves food. She literally would not reject a single instrument of food, including bugs and grass. Like my dog was crazy when I was in America. And when she got old, and like with most dogs, they get senile or they get really passive. It's like you only have two things that are kind of the same coin, right? So my dog got super senile where if she's eating something and you touch her, you will incur the wrath of the beast, okay?
Yeah, I can
bite your
compare
hand
myself
off.
to that pretty literally.
Because I know
if
I
I'm in
get
the
there. I'm
middle
not
of,
even
like,
saying
a
that
session.
I'm not even comparing. I'm not
Yeah.
even saying that Eve is like a ravaging a hyena. With
No,
a
I
meal.
will. I will admit it. I will admit it. If I'm in the middle of something like, especially a brand new expansion, right? Because this is fresh stuff you've never seen before, and you want to take it all in, and you want to notice everything, and you want to just like be immersed in it. And I put my headphones on, and that's like, don't talk to me, don't come near me, don't bother me unless like the house is burning down. That's what it becomes. And I mean, you could probably compare this to other hobbies. I don't know. It's very immersive. Gaming,
Yeah.
especially different kinds of games, are very
Immersion.
immersive. Yeah.
Immersion. You're breaking my immersion, bro.
Like if you're
Bruh.
out playing baseball with your friends and that's your hobby, probably, you know, it's not as immersive, right? You're running around playing with your friends. It's not that.
It's not
you know,
your
full
VR
body,
immersion baseball.
right? Inside
I'm playing
it.
VR baseball. Damn it. Leave me alone. I can't be athletic enough to go out in the field and do it.
But gaming like involves a lot of different senses that it's like you need to pay attention with your eyes and your ears and your, you know, yourself, your brain. So, yeah.
Well,
I
because
know
so
where I
many
was going
games
with
not
this.
only demand your brain, but they demand your coordination.
Oh, yeah.
Let's close this particular point with
Yeah.
I'll close it with a quote from one of my directors. He said, his name is Larry Ratcliffe, and he said, "Be where you're at now." And it sounds maybe it needs a little interpretation. What he was getting at was whatever you're doing, just be doing that. Don't be somewhere else mentally when you're in the room physically doing something else. So like
Be
if
present.
you're with your spouse, be there, not thinking about your game or work or whatever. If you're at work, be there. You know, if you're playing a game, be there. But then know when it's appropriate to do such things, right? And it creates a sense of life where you're not constantly bifurcated, you know, because I think when you're serious about anything, it tends to want to occupy your real estate in your mind, and it can bifurcate your attention to where now you do nothing well. So I think we'll end that segment to the next one. Let's see.
Samurai Flea's
Next
epistle
This episode, I think I'm gonna pick
of the newest
pick and choose
Old
some of these.
Testament.
Yeah. Pick,
Otherwise,
maybe you
otherwise
could
we're
pick
gonna
one,
be here
and I
till
could
like
pick one,
12.
and Rob could pick one. Something
Could
that
be.
like stands out to you that you would like to talk about. Something that jumps out.
I like his first point probably the best. He
Okay.
says, point number 1, he says, find your fun. He says, everyone has different goals, available time, financial means, etc. So figure out what you like about the game and what you don't like, which seems obvious and easy, but can be difficult to realize. And don't compare your results or experiences to others. And it says, you know, there's something about playing a game. Like people will play games because everybody's playing it, because they feel compelled to, because, well, you know, if I'm going to be able to talk to my friends at school or my coworkers, I guess I'm going to play. Like, heck, it seems like nowadays all my friends are playing Warcraft. It's like, wow, everybody's playing WoW, man. I'm thinking maybe I should get a WoW account, but I'm
It's
not
the
sure if I
feeling of
would
being
like
left
that.
behind
Right.
too, right?
Yeah, you don't want to feel
But-
left
You're
out.
falling further and further and further behind unless you can catch up.
Yeah, and you have to. I really need to ask yourself: is this fun? Because if it's not fun and you're doing it for some alternate reason that's not actually enriching you in any or refreshing you in any possible way, you might have to reconsider whether this is a good idea or not.
Yeah, I tend to
Oh,
agree too, especially
absolutely.
for people that pick up a game because their friends are playing it and they don't actually enjoy it and they're just doing it because they're acceptance reasons. It's like, how are you ever going to enjoy the game? I mean, unless you play it for you, it's really hard to enjoy it for someone else if you don't even like it to start.
You talk yourself into it. It's like, I am having fun. This is fun.
Yeah, right.
It's
Like you should be
not
able to
even-
enjoy the game by yourself and with other people, not one or the other. And if you're going to do it one or the other, it should be you because you're going to have more time to yourself than you're going to have with them. So
French Toast makes a really good remark in the chat. I had to explain to my family about non-pausable games because the understanding of people who don't play a lot of different games is you can just pause it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're playing with friends and you're in a live game setting and you're like, no, those are people. They're here with me. We're doing a thing. I cannot just press pause and walk away. And I mean, I tend to play with people who are also adults and understand. If you say, I gotta go right now, they're very understanding. And if you don't
Yeah.
have friends like that, I'm sorry, find them.
yeah,
Play with those people.
yeah.
Those
But
are the
yeah,
people you want as friends.
Like my family, my husband to begin with, and my outside family, like my mom and my brothers and sisters who don't play games, don't understand that concept of just don't imagine me sitting here playing a video game. Imagine I'm sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by people and we're playing poker together. Okay, so before I get up and go do a thing with you, I have to tell them, I'm sorry, I have to do this thing. Like I have to make my
It's a
excuses.
social dismissal. It's not a game
Yeah.
dismissal. Yeah.
Like
Right.
because they can't see the other people, they have less value to them. Like this is what I experienced with my family is like those people don't matter to them because they can't see them. They're just like
Sure.
on the other
Mhm.
side of
Sure.
the world. They're digital friends. They're not real. And to gamers, it's like, no, these people are like more real to me than some people in my real life. You know, we'd always call it RL, real life, versus the virtual world that we were playing in. But these relationships matter. So you'd always feel like I have to take my time and say, I'm sorry, I got to go do a thing and say goodbye to everybody and make your apologies before you could get up and leave. You couldn't just press pause and walk away. So those kind of games that you get involved in, Hearthstone, if you're willing to lose a rank, you can just get up and walk away at any moment.
Yeah.
If you're okay with losing a star, or if you're in casual, or if you're in adventure mode or whatever, yeah, you can just turn your phone off or whatever you're playing on and walk away. So that's pretty cool.
I'm just
I
going to
think.
highlight the rest of this because it overlaps with a little bit as a good transition. It says learning to play decks you like take time, so use casual. Use your time that you think might be in jeopardy, using those times and not playing ranked, but playing a different mode where you can enjoy it. Or you can play your deck in casual and you're like, I can concede here. It's like, I understand. There's no context for this game. I'm literally just trying to learn how to play it. That's fine. You also don't try to focus on every individual game or every individual session because the whole is what's important. The win rate is not the last 10 games. It's like the last 50. It's like you've got to put a lot of volume on this to really actually get a sizable number of understanding of how well things are going. And even those numbers are skewed a lot of the times because they lack context. It's just a number on the screen. So you need to I will counter this a little bit, Flea, by just saying practicing and not focusing on individual games has its merits, but it also is a coin with two sides. You do need to focus on the individual game. You do need to realize what's going on.
Making
in
every
that.
play count.
And
Yeah.
understanding in the context of that sphere before you move on, what was the one, like the sphere it's like is one game, right? So in that game, you want to boil that down to like maybe one or two things that you can kind of take with you as a memory. It's not like all of these other circumstances that happen over the course of the game. You can use all of those circumstances to boil it down to, I probably should have done this, and that would have led my brain this way. or
Yeah.
that was a loss, and that's all I'm gonna take it for. I'm just gonna put it back on the shelf, and I'm gonna be okay.
Yep.
That was difficult for me because I'd see like this deck on Twitter that everyone was like, easy win to legend, like amazing deck. And I'd like log 2 games in it and be like, I just got my face smashed in. This deck sucks, and leave it and drop it.
The
But
best is when
if
they
I'd have
say
taken
that.
that deck into casual,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, piggyback. The best is when they say that, and then it's like, oh, it's because this one card on a Hearthstone replay has a negative win rate, or this is a 40% win rate card, and it's not necessary for the deck. It's like, I'm out. I'm leaving. So
Yeah,
little
I need
context.
to take it in like a
I don't
sphere of like, yeah.
Oh, that stuff, man.
That's just
That's-
triggering.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go on to that one.
I'm sorry.
It's
I
like
fall
getting
for it. I'm
Hat,
like, oh, I'll
Appa,
get the
and
legend.
Bodikas talking about prep in the opener. It's just an open can of worms, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that
But yeah,
discussion.
that's kind of a thing where if you're going to balance your playtime in Hearthstone, use casual more when you're learning a deck, because then you don't feel bad about dropping ranks and get tilted and frustrated because you're learning a game, and of course you're going to lose because you don't know it yet. So use casual more. Good idea. And forgive yourself if you don't know it right away and you don't get it right away, and just try and take what you can from each game. Like, okay, I played that and that didn't work out very well. So next time this situation comes up again, I'm going to know the better play to do, that kind of thing.
There's also
So-
lots of phases of deck learning, right? You have the deck
Yes.
learning where it's like, I'm learning this deck and what is in it. What happens when I draw this? Like, how does this deck work together? Then you
Yeah.
have the phase where you're like, okay, now how does this deck pair against this deck? How does this pair against the mirror? How do I do this? What is better
Yep.
here? So that encounter requires you to have a friend, or requires you to have a ranked encounter where somebody of
Opponent.
equivalent skill is giving you a challenge. And so that's where you learn. And then the next layer is predictive gameplay, where now you know the deck. Now you know what it should do. Now you know how it wins. Now you know how it beats specific matchups. And now you need to predict how they win and how you can disrupt it and how you can beat them anyways.
Well,
It's good. Yeah.
there's something very freeing about knowing what stage you're in when you're playing any game, really. But like in particular Hearthstone, like if you're like, all right, I know that I don't know how to play this deck. And if you go in with that attitude, I don't know how to play this, let's see what happens. And whatever happens, happens. I know I'm in learning mode right here. So if you lose, you're not mad. That's why that's why it's kind of an immature thing, really. And I'm sure I've done it. I know I've done it. To say, oh, well, this deck, this is the tier 1 deck, and then I should be able to just win games. It's like, oh, you win games in the hands of a good player, or somebody who's familiar and has log time, right? So knowing you're in the learning capacity, knowing you're in the proving capacity, and knowing you're at the mastery stage, you can set different expectations for yourself and bring balance to your emotional force. So,
And with regards
That's
to
really
that,
good.
Samurai Flea's final 2 points, which is understanding when luck is playing a major role, when RNG is present, and what the percentages are. Know your percentages, and if you don't, learn them. And then with regards to that, on top of where the phases are of your deck learning, take breaks accordingly when you're getting frustrated. And for a lot of us, the frustration is triggered on different things, whether it be through RNG, whether it be through personal play, whether it be through them winning through having really, really good draws, or matching up against the same thing that you really just don't like playing against multiple times. There's lots of triggers for what needs to be something that makes you angry. And so if you get angry, you get upset, or you get just tilted, know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, play with somebody in co-ladder, and they can help identify those for you. And then you can figure out when you need to be taking a break. All right, let's listen from my man Cap, because we are running long. Not to cut you off too much here, Grant, but we have a lot of stuff still. And I want to make sure we at least read them. So Cap Coiler says, every 3 games of Hearthstone I play, I stop to do something else. Mostly read a book. Not probably the entire book, but probably read it for a little bit, I would imagine. But it can be anything. Great.
doing change of scenery is a big thing.
My mom always called it shift gears every couple hours. Please don't just sit at the computer.
Yeah, I was watching the World First for the new raid that they just put out. Sorry, for Destiny last night, and they said if we get up and walk away for like 3 minutes even, and then come back, we find our brain is just like more focused. we're able to come at it with like renewed vigor, because sometimes you just start getting kind of like tunnel vision and foggy and making stupid mistakes. And so that is really great advice, to just get up and take a breath, grab a drink of water,
Clean your
like maybe
keyboard.
watch a YouTube watch a YouTube video, and just kind of relax, loosen up, and come back at it with renewed energy. It's really good advice.
All right.
Schwally. My little advice is if you lose 3 in a row, stop playing for a bit. Doing something else, piggybacking off what Cap said, it can be another mode of Hearthstone even. Arena, building a new draft, just building the deck, playing the deck is another, just doing a different game with a different deck. Going on a walk. I know some people like to weave in personal fitness. Every time they lose, they do 10 push-ups. Something
Oh my
like that.
goodness.
Greatly reduces the
Adding
possibility of
insult to injury.
tilt spirals. Well, you can kind of change it up and be like, yeah, I have a rotation of like 5 or 6 things that I'll do. So every time I do it, it's not just the same workout where you're not exercising the same muscle. Keeps you from playing a game you're not enjoying. I like Schwally's stuff here a lot. This is something that I see him telling people that are asking for advice a lot. This is like his number one go-to.
Well, you know what? The first time I ever hit Legend, I probably spent the majority of rank 2 and 1 walking around my neighborhood. I was walking
That's
and
really
playing.
great.
Because at that time I was trying to. Doctor said I needed to exercise more, so that's what I went and did. And so I was walking around my neighborhood, and it was at night a lot of times, so I could see my screen. So I would walk and I'd play Hearthstone, and I would put the phone. It was weird because I'd be as I was thinking through my plays, I'd put the phone down on my side, like look up in the sky and think about intellectually what I was going to do. And then I would look at the screen, assess it, and then I'd make my move. And it kept me from misplaying and doing goofy stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of truth in that.
It's something that we almost need to convince people is, you guys, tilt is real. It's a real thing. Even if you're thinking, I know I'm angry and frustrated, but I'm not making any different plays than I would. Anyway, I can just continue playing. It's real. It
No,
affects
tilt
you.
is a real thing.
And it makes you a worse player, 100%. And it spirals because you're ragey and you play bad, and then you get more ragey and you play worse, and then you get more ragey and play worse. So, and then you feel really bad because you feel like you wasted all of this time that you just put into the game because you had no return, and plus all of the rage you're feeling. So, absolutely 100%. If you start to feel it building, walk away.
You want to know something funny that I used to do when I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And tried to play it competitively? This is not something you can do with Hearthstone, to be sure, but one of my best friends from back home and I played a lot, but we could never seem to make ends meet where we could go play together. I just got my cell phone around this time, or borrowed the house phone, because house phones were a thing. Landlines actually existed back then, ladies and gentlemen. And I would call my friend, and I would shuffle my deck, and we would play on the phone. And it was really, really good for me. And I was surprised at basically maintaining a lot of the things that you have to maintain in a game, but you also have to memorize what your opponent's been playing. Because if they say something, then that's now dedicated to your mental capacity to internalize that's what's going on.
Interesting.
It was really good for me to learn, and it was super challenging. So if you guys are wanting to do something fun, maybe you learn another actual card game, or go play Magic and try to play Magic with a mental capacity of you can't see what your opponent's doing, just going by what they say.
Hilarious.
It's really fun. It's really hard too. All right.
Or come to our Discord, make friends in the Discord, and play with friends. Because doing those 80 gold quests is one of the best ways to play competitively, but with no stakes. And it almost, for me, I don't know how it is for everyone else, but it's easier to lose to a friend.
The most fun that I had in Hearthstone was when I was helping Eve prep for a UHL. That was the most fun I've ever had in Hearthstone.
Yeah, that I had a couple of people train with me, and that was like, wow, this is what it's like when you play with friends. Like, this is what the pros do. They play against each other, and they use each other as training partners. And this is like, this would have made me such a better player if I had access to people who would be like, okay, so I think at this point, this is where you made a mistake. Like, no wonder they're so good if they have these people they can practice with who are also as good as they are.
There is wisdom in many counselors.
All right,
Should we go on?
Yeah.
Multizord writes, I've been playing Hearthstone on mobile almost exclusively since it came out on that platform. I find it's easier to balance with my daily life because I'm able to multitask it with other things. If you do this, though, both your gameplay and the task you're trying to accomplish on the side can suffer just a bit. Like if you're doing the laundry while playing a game, it'll take you longer to finish the load you're working on, and you'll make suboptimal plays in Hearthstone. That said, it can still be a fun way to break up the day. I recommend you do this kind of thing a lot if you get to a ranked floor that you're comfortable with and just try out some new decks. That way, if you lose due to real life intervening, at least you'll have gained something from the game, perhaps a deeper knowledge of the matchup you were in, or at the very least, you had some fun. So I think what he's saying is like, sometimes it's fun to balance your mundane tasks, which is, that's what Hearthstone can do. You put it on your phone, you play some games and stuff like that. I would say if you do that, just make sure that you're very aware of what you're getting into. Like I'll play puzzle mode all the time. I'll like do a move on a puzzle, stick the phone in my pocket, and go like make food for kids. And then while I'm sitting there waiting for the macaroni and cheese to, cook, I look at it and go, okay, can I solve this yet? Move, phone back in pocket, dish it up, put it on the plate, that kind of a thing. It's kind of enjoyable. It's like, hey, I solved it, yay! Or well, messed it up again. That was like the 300th time, so I'm gonna, put it away, or whatever.
Yeah, the Adventure Zone stuff that doesn't have a rope is really good. Stuff that you can just kind of leave indefinitely and pause.
I wish
Or
you could
casual
turn
mode.
that on when you're
Use
playing
casual
against a
mode.
friend. Like turning the rope on and off would be really, really fun for
Yeah.
learning scenarios. I wish
If you
they
had
would
the
have that in
option to be
future.
like, yeah,
Like a
we
freeze
want
frame
to
kind
just,
of thing.
Yeah.
You say, yeah,
Like
I
some
want to go play
people-
my friend and just turn the rope off.
Isn't that the way it is with friend matches, or is it? Geez, no, I think the rope's
See,
still
no,
there. I'm
I
not
thought
mistaken.
the same thing too while Rob was saying that. That I thought there was no rope in friend matches.
But
I know
no, that
there
wouldn't
isn't
be the
against
case.
the innkeeper, right? There's no rope against the innkeeper.
There's no rope. No, it wouldn't be because your friends allegedly in competitive events.
Hmm.
So and there's still a rope.
Right.
So
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes
so-
sense.
all right, cool. Next one.
Forgiven One
like, that's a good
writes,
idea.
I use Hearthstone to help me balance my work life. Like many people, I have a high-stress job, and I find that if I can shut my office door for 15 minutes and run a game a couple of times a day, I can then refocus on my work, getting back into being productive and generally more pleasant with others. This is something I've found to be really common with people, even within my Overwatch community, that do this and work from home. One of my best buddies and our admin is named Boombat. I know he's not listening to this episode, so I can name drop him here, but he is an incredible coder and a really nice guy from Australia. And he tells me all the time, he's like, sometimes I'm just really hitting a wall with the code or hitting a wall with just like work. And I just go crank 2 to 3 games of Overwatch because they only take, half an hour to an hour total to crank 3 to 4 games. And then I go back to my work because I work from home and I have free schedule and I just need to detox. It's good to use games for detox. I mean, that was kind of their original purpose in the first place. Whether or not they do that now is a different story, but
but they can be used that
They
way,
can be used
believe
that
it or
I'm
not.
going to be real with you, though. This does not work for everyone.
No.
That's true.
I have a rule with my kids is they're not allowed to play any games before school. Because if they get in the mindset right out of bed of
Ooh, yeah.
playing video games and then you try and yank them out of that and send them to school, they hate school.
Yeah, they're
So
gonna.
it's literally nothing before school. They have to be in the mindset of, I'm going to school. I'm getting ready to learn. I'm going to listen to my teachers and be respectful. Like that has to be the focus of their whole being. And if you get anything in there, they resent everything else.
True.
And it's kind of the same thing with me. Once I get into something, it's like, this is what I want to be doing. And if I have to be pulled out to do something else, I'm annoyed by it. I would be more annoyed by work infringing upon my game time than I would be like, okay, I'm refreshed. Let's get back to it.
I will say that this doesn't work for me. I'm with
Yeah.
you, Eve. It doesn't work for
Yeah.
me. But this can be a major thing that works for people. And
It depends on your personality.
It definitely
Obviously,
depends.
it works for him. So, like, that, it depends on you and what you use games for. For me, games is like a job. So,
I always called
You know-
my told my wife I'd be in the editing dungeon, or I would be in my quarantine zone for paper writing. Those are my terms when I was in grad school or when I was editing podcasts. Just, I'm gonna be in the dungeon for a while.
QZ. Yeah.
I used to be in your camp more often than not, but lately, like at work, like I haven't been able to. I don't have as much free time as I used to. There used to be times where I had a little more time to do things, but like I have like a 26-minute lunch at work. It stinks, but that's what I have. And that means at best 2 games of Hearthstone. And so I'm just excited to play. It's like, yes, I get to play Hearthstone. So whether I win or lose on ladder, like it's like I get to play 2 games. I'm gonna try to make the most of these games. And the
Mhm.
funny thing is my win rate's been incredible when you approach the game that way. If you approach it like I get to play, yes,
That's
as opposed to
awesome.
I wonder if I'll make legend this month.
Grind out
know,
50, 100 more games. Arr.
5,000 games.
I've been finding this like very freeing with how I play Overwatch recently because I've been trying to be, as a lot of you know, I've been trying to hit the diamond rank in that game for quite a while.
Mhm.
And honestly,
You're
I
in
just like this last season I hit the highest rank I've ever hit. This like I finished my placements yesterday my time and I placed highest
Did
I've
you
ever
place
placed.
plat? Did you
Yeah, I
place
placed
plat?
high plat. Yeah, 20
Nice.
2839. So still pretty good. Not
Yeah.
terrible. And I don't really even care. It's like I'm just trying to get better at the heroes. I'm trying to enjoy the game. I'm trying to learn my matchups and play, certain things. So it's just like, the ranks doesn't matter. If you're gonna get good, you'll get there. You'll get there. Just
Yeah.
play.
Getting good
Yeah.
will get you there. That's a good way to look at it.
Eve, you want to read what Beef Squatch said here?
Something I learned last month is that you need to have other games and hobbies for unwinding besides Hearthstone. I got really burned out last season, and I think it's largely because I wanted to play Hearthstone competitively, but also play it for fun, and it kind of can't be both. If I got home from a stressful day of work and tried to relax with some ladder, that just adds to the frustration and doesn't let you play in the right mindset. I took some time off from ladder and played some other games and played more casual than I wanted to play, but not play seriously, and it made a world of difference. I agree with this. The 1 month that I was like gonna try hard, there was no room for casual fun. Like it's a different kind of fun, I think. When you're tryharding and you feel like your brain is just like analytically going over every possibility and you're in the zone, that's a certain kind of fun, but it isn't silly happy fun. It's fun if I win. Fun.
Yeah, right.
So I wouldn't say that you can't have fun and be competitive, but they are two different kinds of fun, definitely. So
Mhm.
I agree that it's a good idea to take a break from it if you're feeling burned out. Like, absolutely pick something else out, take a breather, and then you might actually come back to Hearthstone. You might actually feel like, I think I can pick it up again and have some fun with it. But if you keep trying to make it work, you might just like end up hating Hearthstone and never want to play again. You could ruin the fun for yourself.
I would
Yeah.
love to discuss this more, but I think Squatch just did an excellent job summarizing that, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right, nice in the pocket.
Yeah. So let's move on to your friend and mine, Ridiculous Hat. I guess we'll just kind of go through his points. If anything is redundant, which I don't know that a lot of this is, but if it is, we can just acknowledge that. First point, he says, recognize that if any game, Hearthstone or otherwise, dictates my self-esteem through external and results-based stimuli, that there is likely a need for me to focus on myself on a fundamental level, I think, rather than use the game as a way to seek validation. So what he's saying is like, if you're using the game to feel valuable, you might need to rethink things a little bit, step back and reevaluate, because a lot of people do that. A lot of people, you can take your hobbies and you can start applying self-worth to what you're doing. I didn't do well, so I don't feel worth very much, or I must be inferior in some capacity because I didn't achieve the thing I should have achieved. Right? That's a very unbalanced way of living, if you will.
What is that phrase for low legend that people use?
Dumpster?
Yeah. That phrase is what makes me think of like people taking away validation,
Mm-hmm.
saying you're only this level of legend,
Right.
so you're not, that I don't like it.
Yeah, you still have to be good to hit legend. I wish people wouldn't do that, but then that's like asking to end world hunger. It's something that I'd like to have happen, but I
It's
just don't see it
normalizing
happening
something
anytime
that
soon.
isn't normal.
Right.
It's normalizing that I'm a good
Minimizing
player
it.
and minimizing
Mhm.
that you're a good player, like really good player, and saying like, like if I'm 6-0, for example, not that he does this, but I'm just saying like I'm a good player. So what's normal for me is that I hit top 100, top 500 every month.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm in the dumpster. That's great. That's a great descriptor for you, but it's not for everyone else because that is lower than
That's a good
0.1%.
point.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's a good motivating
point.
thing for him, I'd say. But just to put
Right.
it in
Yeah.
perspective for you, that's not something you
Right.
should describe yourself as.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
True story. Second point, he says, be self-aware and honest with myself about emotional state in connection with the game and outside of it. If I'm particularly upset while playing, attempts to fearlessly identify where that pain and negativity is coming from. It is almost always external to that game.
So you could be
Yeah.
taking out your anger and frustrations on the video game that you're playing and
Yeah.
getting tilted because you've got something else going on in your life that's actually making you angry, which makes sense because if we're all using games to escape, and a lot of us do, you're trying to escape something. So you're
Mhm.
bringing your baggage with you.
And what are you asking the game to do for you before you sit down to play it? Is a good
Make
check.
me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Number 3, if I can confidently identify a meta, a deck, a design decision, or something legitimate as a concern within the state of the game of Hearthstone, I need to allow myself to step back and find other outlets until I'm able to reconnect in a healthier way if I decide I want to do so. This is the art of stepping back from a game, like Eve and I mentioned repeatedly earlier in the show.
So Grant had a problem with a certain card in a certain deck that tilted him off the face of the earth.
Oh, it's just all Shutterwalk. That tilts me off the face of the earth no matter what.
Yeah. So that right there.
Like, I can tell you right now that, and it's something I have to fight. Like, if I'm playing ladder and things are going well, like, let's say it didn't happen today, but let's say I was ranked 2 and 5 stars, and I was like, all right, just got to win this next one, and I can break into rank 1. I don't have to worry about hitting 5 next month. Woohoo. And it's Shutterwalk. And the moment I realize it's Shutterwalk, I can feel my chest tightening. It's just like, I can feel it. And the little angel and devil poofs up on my shoulder, and the angel's like, it's Shutterwalk. Why are you freaking out? And the angel's like, death to Shutterwalk players, and burn their houses to the ground. It's a visceral reaction, but have to just like bow out and like, all right, if I see any more of this, then I'm done for the day. You know what I mean? Because I know
Yes.
myself better than that.
I felt
Let's
the same
see.
way whenever I saw a druid on my wild legend climb. It was like, no, not another druid.
Oh gosh.
Number 4,
Yeah,
ensure that my internal commitment to Hearthstone is viewed as one that I want to make, not that I have to make. The beliefs that I have spent too much money, or I am too involved in the community, or I need to identify with a game in order to turn it into an obligation, and the obligations then cease to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
This is something
So
that
that's what I
a
struggled with
lot
recently.
of Hearthstone podcasts will preach. I think that this is something that came up even when we talked about
Is it
just
Viriatus?
decks.
Do you
Yeah, well,
remember?
Viriatus
Everyone
definitely
was
talked
like,
about
if
it,
you're
but-
not a legend player, you got nothing to say about the game. Things like that.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
This is
So
something
if
that
is
you're
a
not
big
at a certain
contention-
place,
Sorry,
Yeah.
Eve, go ahead. I'm sorry.
if you're not at a certain place, if you're not at a certain level that we recognize and we see as committed enough to the game, then you can't say anything and no one should listen to anything you have to say. That's where you feel an obligation to play Hearthstone.
Yeah. I struggled with that for so long. Like, especially when you make content, you feel a little bit different kind of pressure because the gaming community can get very like that. It's like, oh well, you're not a masters player, or you're not a high single digit legend player, so whatever you say is now invalid because you're not where we think you should be. And that can get really that can cause some consternation and some inner dissonance in your mind in terms of like your validation. Like, well, should I even be talking about this? I don't maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And that can be really toxic for yourself if you're not careful, because truth is truth, no matter who's saying it, right? So,
Well, those who can't do, teach.
oh,
And those who can't
And those-
teach Jim.
I always heard that those who can't teach college.
Ooh. Yeah.
Wow, we are just slinging it around.
Let's just throw it all out there, kids.
I'm going to take number 5.
You got it.
If I
Wrap us
find
up.
myself playing because I need a win or just need to do better or I'm not going to end the night on a loss, walk away. It's not healthy. There's way, way more, but the most important thing is to identify the why. That can inform any number of healthier behaviors. Mindset is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Great way to start capping off this.
You want to know
longer
one
discussion.
thing that I will
Good.
say that's kind of capping off the community when you play Hearthstone?
Mm.
If you want to
What?
play this game and you want to be brainless about it, you can.
Yeah, you really can. It's true.
It's the weirdest thing. Any game you pick up, you don't have to be good at it.
What?
You can
kidding
you
me?
can play it.
That's not
My
true.
brain is exploding. What is he saying?
This
What
is
words
this
are
is
coming out of
again
his mouth?
something that comes up so often in my mental capacity when I'm talking like with people or helping educate fans or even just talking with. This is something that's really freeing for pro players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Firebat. The dude doesn't even compete anymore.
Yeah.
Do you wanna win? Yeah. Do you want to play?
Yeah.
Kinda. What do you really want to do? I want to hit people with Malago sticks, man. That's what do you want, Firebat? The goose is loose. Like that's
I love Firebat.
you know, like I think the best
Yeah.
thing that Firebat has ever done is walk away. You know, so that's sometimes what you can do. And frankly, even Amaz saying that I'm not going to play competitive. I'm just going to do arena. Arena is way more fun for me, way more engaging for my stream. It's great for them. They love it. You know, just find something that you like to do, man. It doesn't have to be Hearthstone, and maybe it is. And you're probably listening to this show. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're here, you probably like Hearthstone.
And you want to
There's a
know
good
what?
chance.
Some of the best episodes we've ever had on our show, a Hearthstone podcast, has been content that has revolved around Hearthstone and not within it. It's not been like our most successful things, our most enjoyable shows have not been things where we're talking about new cards, even though they were enjoyable at the time.
Yeah.
The stuff when we have people like Mackensee's here, we have Pear on, we talk about stupid stuff.
True
Just
story.
shoot the
And
wind with
important
friends,
stuff
man.
and intellectual stuff.
Or important things. I mean, you have the whole gamut of things you can do. You can enjoy Hearthstone in any capacity that you want. You don't even have to identify it. But it's nice if you do. And you can kind of see this is how I'm finding enjoyment in this game. Maybe that's how I find enjoyment in all the games. I talked with Hat about this, about like, if I play this game, I need to like learn everything. I'm like Grant, I'm like Eve. We're all like this. If I want to play this game, I need to learn ins and outs, and I need to put my mental capacity into it, and learning the game is how I enjoy it. And if wins happen, then that's confirmation that I'm learning better and I'm improving. And so that's what really hard for us when we have a game that doesn't have something that you can win, like Destiny, right? Like if you're downing a boss or you're
It
getting a
becomes
piece of gear.
collecting all the things and
It's
doing
collection.
all the things if it's that kind of game. It's like, I did everything.
So
I'm a
learning how you enjoy the
completionist.
game.
Yes.
Learn how you enjoy
I know
the
how I
game.
enjoy games. I have
Yeah.
found that out over many, many years. I've got that down to an art.
Yeah.
And with Hearthstone, for me, it's all about a deck. I know that now. It's about a
Mhm.
singular deck that is exciting and fun and competitive and changes every time I play it. And if a meta doesn't have my deck in it and that deck doesn't exist for me, I really struggle to play and I struggle to enjoy Hearthstone. And some metas have gone on and it wasn't there. The deck didn't come to be. I don't know if I should have created it myself, but it needs to win a little. I can't just throw something together that's super fun and then just lose all the games that I play, so that
Yeah.
it needs to be kind of competitive. But if there isn't my deck in the meta, I don't enjoy playing, and then I end up not playing. And I've finally gotten to the point where I'm fine with that. I'm okay with it. I'll wait till the next meta. I'll play the puzzle stuff. I'll play brawls. I'll play with friends. But if the meta doesn't have what I want to play in it, I don't play.
All right, thanks you guys so much for listening
Yeah.
to the episode. This is where we're going to kind of wrap things up. And Grant, why don't you let people know where they can find and support us for free on the internet?
Yes, for free. You can drop us an iTunes review. We love iTunes reviews. In fact, we haven't had one for a while. So if you know, one of those people who long
I
time
wrote
listener,
one
first time writer.
that we got this last week in the show notes.
Oh, you did.
What? Yeah.
I did not notice that one.
I ninja'd it in while you guys are talking.
Oh, you very clever man, Mr.
Ninja
Rob.
typing Marisa.
Leave us a review. It really helps us get up there in the search for when people are looking for Hearthstone podcasts and they want to get good at the COD game that children play. Apparently, that's all it is anymore. But yeah, that'd be great. We much appreciate it. We will read your review.
Say people who
on
don't have
the show.
kids.
Say people who don't have kids.
Yeah, like seriously, all the people who say a children's card game are like
Yeah.
really young in their teens or early 20s and have no children.
Or life experience. Just
Yeah, let's just slap them down. You don't know nothing, kid. What are you saying?
I got nothing else.
Please read the review.
All right, I
Let's
will
get
read
this
it.
show on the
Malayan.
road.
Read it.
Malayan? Malayan?
That's
HS.
Malayan.
Malayan?
Because you're not lying. All right.
Elegant and entertaining Hearthstone podcast. Ooh, Grant, he called us elegant.
Elegant. Rob likes that word a lot.
Fun addition to your weekly podcast list for fun insights into more than casual Hearthstone player.
Cool. Thank you.
We are not just casual. We are also competitive.
Maurice, get my notebook. We're writing this down.
we are the show that we are one of those shows that has all the hosts have hit legend, but we're not monthly legend hitters. Let's put it that way.
French Toast just subscribed with Twitch Prime, which leads
Word.
into another free
perfect
way
segue.
that you can give us money. Twitch
Eve?
Prime.
Please tell us more
Sure.
about what this mysterious Twitch Prime is.
If you have Amazon Prime, you get like a free subscription. So you can use it for whoever you would like. If you're not using it, you should be using it. And if you
Mhm.
don't know who to give it to us.
If
But
you don't
might
know
be
how to
sitting
use
dormant.
it, give me your credit card.
your free Twitch Prime sub, which comes with Amazon Prime, you have to resub every month. It's not something that just automatically subs to the person you've chosen over and over again as the months go by. You get like a new one every month. So you can decide who you are going to gift it to. And if you gift it to us, we'll be very grateful.
Yeah, very grateful.
Who will you bequeath it to?
Thank you, French Toast. In the chat.
All right.
You
If
know,
you guys
that's
also
gonna be-
want to support us before I get overtaken by the memes here, we have a patreon.com/Velen's Chosen. If you guys want to support us there, it's kind of like Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime in that you can support us monthly, but you don't have to refresh it. You can just set it up for however much you would choose to give as like a tipping service or as a thank you to the production. You can do that over at patreon.com/Velen's Chosen. And special thanks to Jamie S., who is at the top level that we have, who is sponsoring our show and been doing
Our
it for
producer.
a very long time. He's one of our producers. So thank you, Jamie. You are awesome. If you guys don't know who he is, there's a few times that you'll see in our podcast feed where we have episodes with Jamie S. or with Pseudo Ping. And those episodes have always been great, and that is offered to those of you who are producers. If you are
Yeah, if
unaware.
you want to come on the show, if you want to sit here and chat with us, become a producer and we will have you on the show.
Once a year.
Sounds fun, huh?
Sometimes more.
Sometimes more. I mean, they
If
still
we have
keep
like
me
a
around.
lull and we're like, Jamie, come on.
I'm thinking we need Jamie on. That's what I'm
I
thinking.
think so.
Jamie,
We're having a lull
we
in
need
the
you on the
news.
show.
It's a time.
Yep.
You're being
It's that
summoned.
time. All right, guys. If you guys want to find anything and everything to do with the show, you can find it at Velen's Chosen Podcast on our website. You can go to velenschosen.com/links and find anything you want. If you want to join the community, there's a Discord link there. We also have our Twitter link there and our email. If you guys want to catch the live stream, it's twitch.tv/Velen's Chosen Podcast. We did have to kind of make some adjustments on that because we did stream from my personal one early on and we revamped it. So if you want to catch it there, we also have YouTube if you want to catch the live show. And yeah, we'll get you in the podcast sphere soon. And stay tuned for some bloopers at the end and us just kind of shooting the wind in the pre-show. I'm going to start doing that a little bit more where I have like 2 to 5 minutes instead of like a 20-second clip in the post-show. That's going to do it for the show. 155, Balancing Life, Hearthstone, and with doing so with the community. Grant, where can people find you?
If you want to find me, go to the Twitter sphere at WatchmanHS. If you want to know what it feels like to be a 0.001%er and play a full golden deck, you can borrow my golden whizbang deck and shoot me some 80 gold quests at with Watchman #1140.
And if you have any more of them sweet 80 gold quests, you can call our resident Canadian Eve. And how can people find you?
Sorry, my phone was ringing. You can find me on Twitter at LoreMasterEve, and I also have another podcast called Knights of Lore, where we deep dive into the lore of your favorite video games. We've done Destiny, we've done Mass Effect, we've done Overwatch, we've done other things. My brain just crashed, but you should check it out. And also, we have a new one coming up in 2 weeks.
Stay for the blooper reel if you want to know what that is.
Word.
Secrets.
If you guys want to find me, I'm on the tag, Instagram and Twitter, the same tag, not Rob. If you want to find me on an Overwatch podcast that we produced, we just had a Jinx, a one and only Jinx, who is a Brigitte expert, and we had her on, and she is actually currently top 500 in the top 500 for her role. She's incredible. She picked up a really
Is it
sweet
Brigitte?
combination.
I thought it was Brigitte.
Brigitte. That's how you say it.
Brigitte.
It's a hard
Brigitte.
G.
Brigitte.
So anyways, she's been playing with a Doomfist and a Widowmaker, so pretty hard to lose when you're trio queuing like that. That's pretty rough.
Ooh.
Anyways, if you wanted to find out, that's omniclab.com or omniclab podcast. If you guys want to hear about D&D, I think Carrie and I will be recording our most recent concept craft tomorrow or tonight, depending on how things work out. And the last 2 sessions of Dungeons and Dragons have just been hysterical. So we're really excited. We had some really fun sessions over the last couple of days, and I don't know, no spoilers. It's just really good. You should check it out. Conceptcraft.libsyn.com. Thanks again, guys. You guys are so wonderful for sticking this out. This is a long show. We'll see you guys next week. Remember, not all who wander are lost. Bye.
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 Alrighty. Live stream. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm going to be exporting
Stopping recording.
this a little bit later.
Project.
What's
Yeah.
the name of the stream? Did we change it?
No, we didn't. But when I put it to YouTube, it'll shift. And when I put it in the archives.
155. That must be a milestone.
3-year anniversary next week.
Next week.
Hype.
3 years. 3 years.
Wow. 3 years. 3
And
years
that's
of my
not
life.
counting the weeks that we had off with the lore episodes. So technically,
It's
we
been
would have
more
done
than
3
that.
years last month. The end of August is our marker. Or no, it was the first. I think it was the first week in September, Eve, wasn't it? When I recorded our first show.
I have no idea. I would have to go back through all of the archives and take a look,
I'm pretty sure it was the first week of
which is not that hard, actually.
September.
Thank you, everyone who came and watched on the live show.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, Toast. Also, again, been great.
It's nice to have company when recording.
We had about 15 to 16 at peak hours, and this is one of the most active streams we've had without a guest.
Mhm.
So this was
True
great.
story.
All right, guys. I am going to shut down the stream. Thank you again. Eragon, make sure you tell Mr. G who you are when you go to a school. It'd be great to know who you are.
Like,
At
it was
least
me.
for
I
one
was
of us.
there.
It was me, the student.
Forsooth 'tis I, yea verily.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you next week for the live show. Bye.